host, Sammy Kinnison, here with Angela Belford. And today we're actually doing something brand new. Over 100 episodes. We've never done anything like this before. And I'm really excited for it. Angela, I don't know how you're feeling in regards
I
to
think
sort
it's
of this.
cool. It's a great way for us to wrap up our month of questions that we sort of stumbled into. I would love to believe that we're always planning. We've gotten a lot better at planning ahead.
Don't
Oh,
tell everybody that it's never just super planned ahead. You can't let them see the man behind the curtain
well, it's enjoyable to me when we have planned ahead, and
Sure.
so this has been a lovely little side thing and so I'm excited because I think it's a great way for us to wrap up questions.
Right. So if you haven't seen on social media or you're listening to this fresh, we asked the question to you all this time for this episode. What would you do if you weren't afraid? And so we actually have a collection of answers from listeners, from friends, family, listeners, strangers, of what you guys would do if you weren't afraid. And I'm really excited. We want to take a moment to sort of listen to these answers. Angela has not heard, I think she maybe heard one or two of these, but really is going in blind. So we're going to get some very good, authentic reactions to this. But want to take a moment, hear what people have to share, and sort of celebrate and honor where people are, and maybe provide some encouragement for you all who might be in similar places. There's a breadth of approaches and things that people are dealing with, and I'm really, really excited to talk through these today. So, without further ado, I want to listen to the very first one that I have for us all.
If I were not afraid, I would be a keynote speaker that is willing to pitch myself to the biggest stages and be able to pitch myself to a audience like Good Morning America or to a national audience that is going to get my message out there. And I would be not afraid to charge money for my coaching services because I know it gives freedom and value to people.
All right, Angela, I know that you thought you were just doing a test recording whenever we were getting everything set up, and you had no idea that I was going to play it back live for everyone. But I wanted to start off with your answer, particularly because leaders go first. We're going to open up with vulnerability, and we're going to open up with our own. Where are we within this? And that you and I, as much as we want to stand here, sit here, record in front of our cameras and microphones and say, look at our freaking awesome life, I want to reassure everybody, we don't have it all together. We are figuring things out. We are afraid of things as well. For as much work as we have been doing, there are things that we still face. So even though I know you didn't really love that I started with your
demo. I hate it so much. I wish I would have said test.
I still think that I really appreciate hearing your answers and hearing from you. And I think that for so many people who look at you and I to say like, wow, you guys have it all together. We don't. I'm just going to tell you the secret is.
I don't know that we actually sell that. We have it all together. I'm not sure that we actually do sell that concept.
We say that, but I still think that the comparison voice that can be in your head still says, look at them being vulnerable. They've got it all together. And I just really want you guys to know, well, it's okay not to.
So it's interesting that we jumped into this because hearing my answer actually made me realize the genesis of this whole question was actually back in 2013. I was at a Blog Her conference and I heard Sheryl Sandberg speak, and it was about her book, Leaning In, and she had pieces of paper on every table, and there was, 200 people, 300 people in the room, and she had a piece of paper on every table, and she said, I want you to take a pen, no thoughts, cannot thought, just grab your pen and write, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I wrote, write the book. And then I went, sorry, what does that mean? But that's how the visceral the response was, because in 2013, that was not on my radar. I was actually running one of my clients' companies at the time, still had the marketing agency. I was not thinking I'm going to write a book. And then in 2017, I actually went over to Cheryl. She was sitting down and I said, "Can I have my picture taken with you and my sign?" And she was like, "Of course." And then in 2017, when I got a copy of Be Freaking Awesome, I posted it side by side with this picture of Cheryl. And it was like, it took me 4 years, but look I did the thing that I wasn't afraid of. So when I was hearing what I was saying, I was like, oh, I wonder how long it will be before I can post this clip next to the clip of me doing the things that I said that I was afraid to do.
Next to
So,
the video clip of you on Good Morning America
sure. Yeah.
or whatever it might be.
I know. I'm sorry. My
What
mouth
is
is
this?
really dry. My mouth is like all of a sudden like really dry. Like I'm having the severe nervous system response that we all do. And I'm not having the like want to run away or fight. So, ooh, I don't have freeze very often. Literally, my ankles are so cold at this moment. My hands just got really cold. My mouth just got really dry. And I'm barely sweating because I have like my whole body is frozen right now.
So
So, and that
interesting.
is, and here's the thing, that's a natural response because my body just decided that that whole experience was dangerous. And so I know my coping skills. That's why I teach my keynote. Teaching everything, anybody that'll stand in front of me for half a second is that we take a deep breath. Because when I take a deep breath, I send the message to my brain that I'm not dangerous. What's adorable is that my brain goes, of course we're not dangerous because we ain't going to be doing any of that crap anytime soon. ah, let's watch the magic behind the curtain right now, right here. That's funny. Oh,
I love it.
okay. So,
While you take some
mhm.
more deep do you have more thoughts on this one or do you want
Well,
to
just that I want to help people I want us to normalize our fear response, right?
Mm,
Like my body is just trying to keep me safe and it feels dangerous. And so I, like a lot of humans, have taken that to mean I shouldn't go forward with this thing that scares me because it feels dangerous. And I think that on the other side of the fear is our breakthrough. So, yeah, we can go to the next one.
I love it.
We're done processing my own freeze response. Thank you.
So, I would really love to hike the Appalachian Trail. It could be an experience of a lifetime, but it's a 5 or 6 month commitment. I'm healthy, I can arrange the time, finances aren't an issue, but I have a family and family members that depend on me. So I really worry what that would look like and how realistic my absence for that long is for them. And really, if I did go, what life would I come back to after that 5 or 6 months? So that's a hope, and those are my fears around it. So there you go. Thank you.
Okay, Angela, first thoughts. What do you got?
Well, number
First
one,
reaction.
I feel like I know a lot of our listeners because they talk to me. And so I'm like going, ooh, I don't recognize that listener's voice. So that's exciting. Number one. Number two, I have so many questions for them. Like,
Mm,
what's the age of your family? And that sort of thing. So I immediately start problem solving. Also, just want to celebrate courage to say, I have this dream, I have this goal. It also reminds me of the uh, Camino Royal Santiago in Spain. And often people do it. I'm probably saying it wrong. That's okay. Often people do that. It's a pilgrimage to the tomb of Saint James, and it's a several month walking thing, and it is so popular, and it's been going on for hundreds of years that there's literally like hostels along the journey, and it's a very community based thing, and it can take several months to do it. And I've heard of a couple of people that have done it like in 2-week increments. So they'll just take 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. I think it takes 8 weeks to do the whole thing. And so they've done it over like a 4-year period. So that would be the other, if he was asking for advice on how to do it, is maybe you don't get to do it in a 5 or 6 month in a row, but you just do pieces of it at a time. And who knows, when his kids graduate, there you go.
One of the things that I think, as far as like a almost universal or just fear that a lot of people I think can identify with, it's not always my own fear of like, oh, well, what's going to happen to me? Which I think, even in comparison to yours that we shared, it's a little bit more about what's going to happen to me. Whereas this one is, I'm actually not concerned about what's going to happen to me. I've got my finances. I know I could make it, but I am concerned about the impact my actions will have on the people around me. And I think that it's interesting because I, for a long time, tried to say, well, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. And as we have talked about, like, child Sammy internalized that belief. 5-year-old Sammy got off the school bus and really did not care what anybody thought about what she wore. 5th grade Sammy really did not care what anybody thought about what she ate. And as I have gotten older, I've really had to recalibrate that it's not that I don't care what anybody thinks about me. It's that I care what the people closest to me think about me. I want to say it's a Dr. Seuss quote, or maybe it's an Eleanor Roosevelt quote. Those are two very different people, but
They're not. They're both wisdom.
Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. And this idea that there are a lot of people, I don't care what they think about me. It has no impact on my life. But my closest friends, my closest family, when they have thoughts about me, when they have, well, this has impacted me in this way, or even, Sammy, this feels out of character, that means a lot more because of the relationship, the investment in me, all of these things. So it's an interesting fear to share. It's about the people around me, not necessarily about my own internal fears.
Well, and thank you for bringing that up, because I just got back in town a day or so ago. I feel like I say that on every podcast. But the season of life that I've just come out of, I feel like I haven't really been home since Thanksgiving, which means we're on almost 4 months of me not feeling like I was home. Now, I went on a little trip. I was home for Thanksgiving. I had then a family emergency where I was in Ohio for 3 weeks. I came home. I got COVID for like a week and a half. And then my aunt passed. And so I waited a week and a half to go to the funeral. So I was technically home, but I was in already like mode of traveling to that thing. I was home for a week and a half, and then I was gone of my own volition for 5 weeks anyway. And then, it keeps going.
And then you came back, and then you had another trip.
Right.
There's
and
been
then I
more.
had a lot of, right. And then I had a work trip, and then I tacked on some fun to my work trip, so it's just been like home has not been. And so I can appreciate, and it's also been when I talk about being a keynote speaker, that's a consideration, as you do travel a lot. I just spent a week with someone that travels a lot. And here's what I was going to say about all that, not to be about my travel schedule, but to say, like, I know that there are people that I've said, I'm going to be there for you because I know you're going through a hard time in your life. And there were days last week when I was on a cruise ship and I didn't have cell signal it was harder because they're used to texting me that I didn't have cell. And so if they could get in touch with me, I could call them on my other ways. But I do feel the impact of, I said I would be there for you, and then I haven't been able to be there for you. One person actually called me out. You disappeared. And I'm like, my aunt had a stroke. Like, I wasn't just like, twiddling my thumbs in the Bahamas here. Okay. Like, things happen. And I'm giving myself grace, but also I am cognizant of I'm curious to what the impact is on my relationships and my friendships. And I say, I don't like to be gone for more than 4 or 5 weeks at a time, because I know it's harder for me to maintain those relationships. So I think it's wise to consider that. And if it's a really big goal, what are some ways that you can work around it? What's next?
I have, sorry, one more thought though,
Nope,
before we
one more
move
thought.
on. The other thing that this reminds me of, I remember Brene Brown's second TED Talk. She talks about how, sort of after the first TED Talk, she went on a little bit of a speaking tour and different things like that, had her book. And there was an event that she was at that afterwards, there was a husband, a wife, and their daughter came up. They got their
Mm.
books signed. The wife and the daughter walk away, and the husband says, this isn't for men too, right? And she goes, no, of course it is. And he goes, my wife and my daughter would rather see me die on the top of my white horse than see me fall down. And I think that one of the things that one, Angela, you and I are women, and so we aren't as we I don't have the life experience to be able to compare, but I think that there is a pressure on men to provide, to be there, to make it through regardless of what's going on. Your dreams, your needs, your desires may not always come first. And I think that doesn't always get talked about enough. And so
Mhm.
it's an extra nuance on top of this. It doesn't give an answer to it. It just gives I wonder if there's this, the knight on the white horse feeling also. Like, what
Mhm.
if I leave my family? Golly, am I being selfish? Am I
Right.
taking too much for myself? Is this something? So, anyway, listener,
I love it.
didn't share your name, but just want to encourage you and see you. I sort of think that's our goal with all of these, is to just take a moment to help see people where they are
Love
and
it.
be able to go. All right, next one.
Hi, my name is Holly Melton, and I am now from Bentonville. I used to live in Springfield, Missouri, and I love living in Bentonville now. But if I could do anything, if I completely got rid of all the fear around it, I would sell my house, store some of my things, and sell the rest, and move to Italy for a year. I would probably want to live someplace maybe like in Positano. But that's what I would do if I could just step out of that fearful mode of not having a regular paycheck and a regular gig and a regular life and being too far from my kids. So thanks for the opportunity.
So, yes, Holly is a friend of mine, a new friend, and I would say, well, first of all, I would support her decision because what I have seen of her moving to Bentonville is she's very intentional about making friendships. And she's one of my, we met in October, so we've known each other 5 or 6 months, and she has made an effort to reach out to me, which I feel like in a lot of my relationships, I'm the one that reaches out to other people. And so I have so appreciated that she is like, hey, I enjoyed having coffee with you. How's it going? Like, she has really done a great job of cultivating that friendship. So I think she would do fantastic making new friends in Italy. And that's very curious. I know a lot about her, and I didn't know that was her. Here's what I would do if I wasn't afraid. So I'm happy to know that about her, and I'm curious if there's a lot of people that resonate with that idea of like I would sell it all and I would go travel. I actually have a friend that did that. She sold everything, put stuff in storage, and she and her husband bought an RV and they traveled. And it lasted like 7 months. And they were like, I don't know how long it'll last, but this is what we want to do. And it was early in their marriage and they really wanted to connect and make their own way. And the thing she missed the most was routine. Like, I like being able to like know I'm going to get up and this is where my coffee is. And this is where I loved the cadence of my life. And it was the relationships with family that she didn't like being away from. So
Well, and I think
go
we sort of
Holly.
just talked about this a little bit with when we were talking about the last answer. And Angela, you talking about, you a year probably would be too much for you to go somewhere else,
Hmm.
but there are chunks to go take time and experience other places in the world without that loss. And so I think that that's really great. And you and Holly should go out to coffee again, and you can tell her all about what you've learned in the traveling and how to manage those things. But thank you, Holly, for sharing with us and
Absolutely.
letting
Yeah, for
everybody
those
know.
if you can't do that, if you are able to kind of stack up your PTO time, I find that a month is a really good length of time. We say that we want to be there long enough to get bored. And so we've done the stuff. We have to find a grocery store because we can't eat out every single day. We love the 30 days, 4 to 5 weeks is a really good opportunity to kind of get to know some people and also to get to know the community. So if you can't do the whole year, yeah, find some big chunks.
I love it. Here's our next one.
If I wasn't afraid of being alone, I would decide to be alone. I would decide to live my life in an apartment by myself and just have myself make my choices. And I would find my own job and be independent and do everything by myself.
It's very interesting if I wasn't afraid of being alone, because I think that there are so many people that loneliness is that big thing that they're trying to overcome and get over. And it's if I could accept the loneliness or potential for loneliness, I would do these things
I,
on my own.
I think it's also in our society, in our world, it is also very challenging to be a single income earner. And there is an element where she said, have my own career and provide my, that I heard from to, of like, can I make it on my own, sort of thing. What's interesting is that I've teased about friends of mine that are single. They're like, "God, I really would like some companionship." And then friends that are married, they're like, "Gosh, I would love some alone time," you know? And
Yeah.
so, um, I think there's definitely, and I don't think either group is trying to be the grass is greener on the other side. They're just acknowledging that there is elements of the lifestyle that they have that they don't prefer, and there's elements that they would like um to just alleviate in some way. So this one I think is very common.
Yeah. I think that sort of just your point about it's not the grass is greener. There are limitations, and it's hard, and it is both sides can have hard spots.
Hmm.
And thanks for sharing with us that this is something that you're kind of afraid of. And if you guys relate listening, you're not alone. Let's jump into our next one.
Well, here's the thing. I am afraid, but I'm doing it anyway. Um, I've kind of left my old life behind. I'm losing weight. I'm working out. I'm rebuilding my business because I have two children and they're watching me. And, life is scary, but I can't afford to fall back. I can't afford to not do the things that are important to me because I know that my kids are watching me.
Mm.
They don't listen to what I say, they watch what I do. And the only way that I can teach them to be the kind of people that they want to be is by being the kind of person I want to be. So, yeah, I'm afraid, but I'm doing it anyway.
I thought that was so beautiful. Angela, first reactions?
Man, preach, sister, preach. I so agree with you because I feel like and I kind of rant on this in my first book about people who use their kids as a reason why they can't do personal development and they can't grow. And I'm like, no, your kids are the reason why you should do personal development, become the best version of your human, and do the work and do the things that make you afraid, because it's just so hypocritical to try and encourage our kids to be strong and courageous if then we aren't being strong and courageous. So I absolutely love this. I'm doing it anyway. What a
Well, and
great
I
thought.
think that that's so much of life is that you think that I think the fallacy is thinking that bravery is not being afraid and that having courage is not being afraid, when frankly, it means doing it even though you are afraid. It means taking that unknown step.
If you don't have fear, you don't need courage.
Yeah.
If there's no fear, you don't need bravery. You just do the
Right.
thing.
It's also, we've talked about the high highs don't exist without lows.
Mhm.
And the moment to show yourself sort of, what you've got, the gumption you have and the fortitude to continue to press forward, you got to have something to press forward towards. It's the Indiana Jones leap of faith in the chasm. Taking that step can be so much more impactful than just standing there. I love it. Thank you for sharing, Monique. That was really wonderful. All right, here is our next one.
If I wasn't afraid of student loan repayment and childcare, both the cost and finding it, I would quit my teaching job.
This one to me shared with us anonymously, and I feel like it's really difficult because both of those things aren't necessarily personal, like big things to overcome, but it's almost societal things. It's things within circumstances sort of beyond our control at times. And so how do you balance the things that you can't control, the surrounding circumstances against what you want to do and where you want to take that step? And that's really hard.
Absolutely. My encouragement is also remembering that there are seasons of life. I remember, and I know this isn't a faith-based podcast, but I remember back in the day, I used to read Proverbs 31, and it's a little bit overwhelming, all the different things that this Proverbs 31 woman does. And for those of you that aren't familiar, it's like, she she makes garments and she takes care of the fields and she does all these different things.
Takes care of the family. She's well respected in the
Yeah.
community. She's taking
Yeah.
care of the poor and the needy.
Yeah. The list is long. And when I began to wrap my brain around the idea of like the totality of my life, not necessarily all at the same time, then it became a lot less overwhelming. And so hang in there with hope, and kids grow up even when we don't want them to. And we don't always have to have childcare. And also this is very hard. And
And
maybe sharing it helps give people more courage.
yeah, knowing that you're probably not alone within this. And even in the struggles of a job like teaching, which right now can be so, so challenging. So we see you. Thank you for sharing with us. Appreciate the opportunity to learn a little more. Our next person is actually myself. I didn't pre record this. I'm just going to share live. So if I wasn't afraid of financial situations, I would fill out the application to start the adoption process tomorrow. Our family is, I felt, called for a long while to adopt, and trying to figure out what is the right step and when is the right step and are you sure the finances all add up, feels daunting at different times. And if I was not afraid at all, I would do it tomorrow and we would just go forth and make it happen. So that's my vulnerability moment, thing that I wanted
And
to
you're
share.
getting closer,
Oh
right?
yeah. We
Yeah.
are.
We have a planned date in the future now. So
Right.
that you can fill out the application even though you don't know all the answers.
Even though I don't know. So stay tuned. That's a little bit more about my life. It doesn't really come up as much on the podcast that we are intending to adopt, but I'm sure within the process there will be things that we will talk about and debrief at different moments. And then our very last person is actually not somebody who shared a video clip, but sent in a message. So I'm just going to read that. And then, Angela, you can react. It says, this is from my cousin in law. This is from my husband's cousin, actually, who I've gotten to be really, really close with. It's been super precious. Her name is Sarah. She says, hey, I've seen your post over the last little bit about being afraid, and I've been thinking about this a ton. I thought about answering on the website, but I don't think that's the answer you're looking for. For the first time in my life, there is nothing that I am afraid to do. I cannot think of one single thing. And that is a feeling I don't think I have a thought I don't think I have thought a ton about, and it is pretty neat. Thought I would share. And
Oh, Sarah, that's
I told
awesome.
her, it's perfect. That is exactly okay to say that for the first time in my life, I actually don't think I'm afraid. And I think celebrating the lows and celebrating the highs is important. And noticing the seasons, noticing the space that you're in. Right now, Sarah has actually just moved across the country to be with a significant other. She graduated with her master's degree. She's working at a job that she loves and is really taking control of the steps and building an intentional life. And I'm just so stinking proud of her that she is doing all of the things for herself. And I think it's sort of fun to think about that she's really been wrestling with this for a couple of weeks now, saying, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? And keeps coming up blank that there's nothing that she's afraid of.
I
So,
love that.
thoughts, Angela? Any other thoughts?
Man, that's so fantastic because I don't like post-it notes on my screen, and I have one post-it note, just one, and it says, "What if it was simple? What if it was easy?" And I wrestled with this question a year or so ago of like, is it okay if it's easy? Is it okay if my life is not just one struggle after another? The idea of like everybody's either coming out of a challenge, going into a challenge, or in the middle of a challenge. Like, is it okay if it's not really challenging right now? And what I came to, and part of it, I actually pondered this with a friend of mine that was going through a very, very, very dark time and season in her life. She had lost a child to overdose. And she said, it absolutely is okay for it to be easy and simple because you don't know when you're going to face the next challenge, and shore up those good feelings and shore up that energy and take good care of yourself when you're not in the middle of a challenge. And so that's what I hear from Sarah is like, I've just come out of, probably came out of a season of like getting your master's and moving across town or cross country. Those are a lot of scary things to accomplish. And so at this moment in this high of saying like, wow, I have what it takes. I've proven to myself. Take a breath. Yeah. And breathe that in and celebrate that and take a moment. And maybe some of you listening are like, oh man, I wish I could be that way. But are there areas of things that you're not afraid and that you're doing the thing? Maybe you're not doing the thing in every single area, but you have this one thing that's really hard and you're allowing your life to be easy in some areas, or allowing the hardness of your life not to get you down so that you still spend a little bit of time and energy doing that thing that is really scary, that is really hard. Then celebrate that. And if life just feels like it's battering and everything is fearful and everything is afraid, hang on. Hang on. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. And if you're in a great place, this too shall pass. And I don't mean it to be negative, but it's just that realistic, and just accepting where you're at. So I think it's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, Sarah.
I love it. Anybody else, if you guys have thoughts about what you're afraid of, what would you do if you weren't afraid? We're here to just tell you, maybe do it anyway. Maybe do it scared. Maybe recognize that it's valid and it makes sense that you're afraid of these things and that these things are in front of you. That is a testament to your relationships, your care and concern. And maybe sometimes our fears are related to some beliefs and doubts about ourselves that we can let go of. And maybe we can continue to press forward anyway. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thanks for being a part of this fun episode that's just a little bit different than normal. We are probably going to do more like this in the future. We'll come up with more ideas to share because I thought this was really wonderful. So thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts. We love you all. We hope you guys go be freaking awesome.